When we started speaking about Aperture in the previous video, I mentioned that there are some mistakes that are made quite often. Well, the problem for the majority of photographers comes from their attitude. What I mean is that they look at the viewfinder as if it were an aim, or even worse, as if it were a tube. Hence comes the weak composition. Let me try to explain with examples one more time. How I came to the advice I'll give you in the next several minutes, via my own experience. I was still working at the newspaper when I really got tired of missing shots or taking poorly composed shots. The reason? I was shooting with a central point only. Once, in the older models of the cameras, it used to be more reliable, let's say. Especially if in the case of poor lighting or an open aperture. And while I was focusing on the face with this point, I didn't have time to build my frame. I was taking reportage photos, after all. I needed a fast reaction. Everything was going on in the twinkling of an eye. You know how it's happening at an event. Once, I decided to take the risk and shoot with a newer camera, at that time Canon 7D. A little later, Mark II. What I changed was that I was photographing with all focus points on, or another way, with some group points on. Magic! I just realized that this is it. This is what I needed. I found my way. In other words, this option allowed me to focus more on the story and composition. This and many of my other works were shot in that way, with closed apertures ranging from 7.3 to 16. Here comes quite a good example. F16, all focus points on and the moment is caught. I couldn't imagine shooting with a single point at that exact moment, just I wouldn't have the chance to take my image. A lot of photographs shoot with manual focus. Well, it's my personal opinion, of course, but I think that with our modern fast lenses, there is no need to suffer, really. I mean, just take advantage of technology and of the improvements that are happening. And here comes the result. There is composition, a horizontal golden rectangle. There is plot. Yes, if you shoot, for example, at 2.8 as in this case, then of course the chance to lose the focus in your frame is much higher. Because of that, I didn't take the risk and shot with one focusing point only here. Which again comes to prove each frame requires your individual approach. As in this case, for example, it was simply impossible to shoot with all the dots, since I wanted to focus on the person. Plus, the larger number of the aperture. Because of that, almost everything is in focus. But I would not risk to lose a photo like this. It was really necessary to build a precise frame here. This is my favorite vertical rectangle in practice again, and here comes the horizontal golden rectangle as well. Can you see now where I'm aiming at? The intersection points of the two golden rectangles are passing near the head of the man. Perfect timing. And it's so important in street photography and in each type of photography actually. A step further, and here comes even the golden ratio. For some of you, this may seem difficult, but all you need is a little bit of experience, a little bit of practice. The more you practice, the easier you're going to see them at least. And then, of course, you start adding them, these compositional elements, to your photographs. Here's a scenario when you have all the time in the world for your shot. No need to be in a hurry. Everything is calm and you shoot with one point only. When you have such a chance, just use it. This is your time to build the frame as you'd want to, up to the slightest detail. In my case, that meant the golden spiral to be included. Shooting with a central focus point often results in a central composition. I have already mentioned that the central composition is considered a violation of the composition rules. Precisely, just not always. Take a look at this picture, for example. In my view, the central composition is there to add more to the confusion, to the loneliness of this person. It seems that he simply does not understand where he is at the moment. He's probably back to some familiar places. There is probably nothing familiar left there. Going further a little bit with our plot analysis, the time for him has stopped. Pay attention to the old clothes, the old bags. All these details add to the overall feeling of timelessness. Did you notice? Our analysis started from the composition, the central composition. Here comes another example when the central composition works well again. If you look at the photo in detail, you'd notice that the central composition seems to create itself. What I mean? First of all, the window behind the woman with the bouquet, notice its frame. Then, the woman herself in the center of the window. Last but not least, from left to right, the girl's look, the grandma, the visual contact between the camera and the central object in the frame, that same woman with the bouquet, then another woman, then another man. By the way, I was always curious whether she will present the flowers to someone, hence she's smiling, or she's just being presented with the flowers and that's why she's smiling. No answer I can give you although. You see it now, that crossing point. Call it a cross if you want to, but what matters here, this is an aim. Excellent and well thought over violation of the compositional rules, I'd say. It's a common misconception, in fact, especially in portrait photography, you need to use the central composition. Well, nothing like that. I completely agree about the central point, as the portrait can be seen frequently in between f2.8 and f4. But the composition may be different, not obligatory a central one. Another example shot on 2.8. How the balance is achieved? Well, look at the tree on the left and the passing person. They are the stabilizer, if I may say so, for the central subject. Or you can do it this way, f4 at 200 millimeters, almost without any balance. What makes the photo here is the atmosphere. It creates the general mood. Snowy, gloomy, homelessness, sadness. You may enumerate more. Then, one more time, a photo taken with a central focus point, of course, despite the 7.1 aperture. You definitely need to focus on the person, but the atmosphere at the same time is not less important here. So, you're having another example of a stable, beautiful, and on the place central composition. I won't stop repeating it because it's really important. Always, before you take a picture, think about what you want to take in the frame, and what you want to include in it, and what you want to exclude, what does not matter in that precise case. What would be emphasized and what should be left secondary in the picture. What points to use? A single one? Or probably you need all of them? Maybe you need a larger aperture to have time to build a good composition? Everything is possible. Or it's only the central point in a calm mode. Everything, really everything depends on the situation only. Of course, in a combination with your mood, with your goals. Don't forget that this is your photography. You are the one who is in charge.